Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and call the meeting to order for the 2022 Board of Equalization and Review. Before we get started, I thought I'd roll through some information about our role and kind of the format of the meeting. Try to keep it as relaxed as we can, but we do have to have some form of order. So if you'll bear with me just a minute. We're the 2022 Board of Equalization and Review for Union County. We've been appointed by the county commissioners to hear any and all taxpayers with respect to concerns, complaints regarding the valuation of their property for tax purposes. Property owners appearing before the Board of Equalization and Review have a right to a fair and equitable hearing. The Board of Equalization and Review has been charged with ensuring that the proper legal principles have been applied in a valuation dispute for tax purposes. So as we get started in kind of the format of the meeting, the clerk will call the case, and then if you would, you'll step to the podium here, and the county staff will put the property on the monitor so we can all view it and look at it. At that time, you'll go ahead and present your information to the board. The board then will have an opportunity to ask any questions. And then after that, we'll have the county staff will present their information, and then the board will have an opportunity to ask questions to the county staff. We just ask when the county staff is presenting their information, don't interject. Let them present their information. Let us ask the questions. And then after both sides have presented their information to the board, I will come back to you as the taxpayer for any final comments. Okay. With that, any cell phones, if you would, put those on silent. You know, after we hear all the cases today, we'll go into the deliberation phase of the hearing, and then the county will notify you within 30 days of the board's decision. Okay. And finally, you know, by statute, the burden of proof is on the taxpayer, you know, in these hearings. Okay. So with that, anything else? Okay. Madam Clerk.
Okay. Hearing number one. This is a two-part hearing for property key number 415574, 415577, 415573, 415576, 415575.
So was this Tyson Foods?
Tyson's Food.
And who was representing Tyson Foods? Good morning.
Good morning.
And your name?
My name is Jonathan Edwards. I'm the complex manager at Tyson Foods in Monroe.
Okay, Jonathan.
I represent Mr. Terrell, who has been interacting with the tax department.
Right.
He could not be here out of Arkansas this morning. So I'm probably a little green to this, but I'm going to do my best to get
Just take your time.
Okay. So the background information that was provided to me ties to the county had commissioned a 5-year audit on the Monroe processing plant personal property. That was done through a third party, and I guess there's been interaction going on between the county at this point and the tax department of Tyson Foods. The audit issues to which I would like to speak are the pollution control assets. It is our position that due to the audit period of 2016, 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020 are open, we have standing to file for the pollution control exemptions for all audit periods. Our position is that these assets are exempt under North Carolina statute. The plant does not have an application for property tax exemption or exclusion on file with the county. Application for certification form TC-WQ was sent to the state on 12/15/2022. We filed the application for property tax exemption for exclusion form AV-10 with Union County, including supporting state filing documentation required on 12/15/2022. Email confirmed receipt was received of the application to Union County on 12/16. It would be our ask that the board would accept the application as timely for the open audit periods of 2016 to 2020. We believe that the late application is a valid reason due to the fact that the audit period is open.
Okay.
Regarding idle assets, this is the position that the idle assets have been idle since 2014. They've remained idled for the whole audit period, and these assets were disposed of in 2022 and will be reported as disposed assets on the 2023 return. These assets had little to no value during the audit period. And the last item is regarding the feed mill. There is a question if the official record indicates that the silo was removed from the personal property asset list and put on the real estate.
Okay. Any other information from you?
No, sir.
Yeah. Let me see if members of the board have questions for you.
On the idle assets, what did y'all receive in proceeds for the idle assets?
They would have been, well, I'm sure that they've been scrapped, but I will have to verify that with you.
Yeah, just don't know, because even idle assets have some value.
Right.
Because you do recognize something somewhere along the way, even if they not usable in present form or whatnot, but you do get something out of it. And usually when you sell something like that, it kind of gives you a value of what it was.
Okay.
It may not be much, but it may be something,
Right.
or it may be a good bit.
Yeah.
Don't know.
Okay. Mark?
No question.
Okay. Ray?
I got questions for the county.
County? Okay. All right, with that, Mr. Edwards, let us hear from the county staff, and then I'll circle back to you after they present their information. The board has a chance to ask questions, okay?
Thank you very
All right,
much.
thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we've got two different people that are going to be presenting this morning. To the first part, the assets discovered in the audit, our audit firm is here. Rana Dyer is the audit supervisor for Tax Management Associates. She can speak to that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
Hi.
I completed the audit for Tyson, and what we found in the audit is that the pollution equipment had not been listed during the audit period, and that there were no valid exemptions on file with the county. So when that happens, we will pick those assets up as part of the audit, and that's what we did through the discovery. The idle assets are part of the discovery that we did, but because they were still in possession until 2022, and the audit period was looking back from 2020, those will be taxable during that period of time. So I don't know that Tyson's really questioning the idle, but they will be removed going forward, is our understanding. But for the pollution equipment, it was assessed because, or it was discovered because it was still on the books and no application was on file.
Okay. Questions for Ms. Dyer? Mark? Thomas?
Nope.
Okay, Ray?
Yeah, I'm looking at the schedule that the county put together. The one column says pollution equipment, and that's the one you indicated they did not have a timely exemption for that equipment.
Correct. When we discussed it with the county had no exemption on file. And then I believe that when the county discussed it with Tyson, they had not filed with the Department of Environment to get the exemption. Therefore, they had not filed with the county to also get the exemption. So at the time of the audit, the assets were not exempt.
You also got a column on here that says building M&E for 16 through 2020.
Mhm.
Is that the idle equipment?
No, the building M&E would be assets that were not reported due to the fact that they were in a building asset account as opposed to a personal property asset account like M&E. And during the audit, we found certain items that were actually personal property and not real estate. And so those we have proposed being moved on to the personal property return.
So that's
because they're
just-
not assessed as the
That's
building.
just a reclassification from real.
From
estate.
real to, yeah, to
What type of
M&E.
stuff was that, do you know?
I'm sorry?
What type of stuff was that?
I will have to go back. It's normally, not saying that it's completely that in this audit, but it would be possibly wiring, piping for equipment.
Okay, so it's shearing equipment.
It would be M&E. Yes, anything in that would be considered machinery and equipment.
So none of that was idle.
Not in that category, no. The idle was all in a separate category.
Yeah, that's the smallest amount of
It is the smallest amount,
Yeah.
yes. You're correct.
Okay,
yeah.
that's all I have.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other information? Okay.
No?
Thank you, Ms. Dyer.
Hey,
What?
the second part to this is the late application.
Right.
So
okay.
Travis is here to speak to that.
Okay.
All right, so we've got two applications that were kind of turned in this year. First one was, it was kind of turned in due to a review process that we went through. In 2020, we had got an application from Tyson for their real estate, and it was approved without proper documentation. So we sent a review application to try to get the correct documentation for the real estate. During that, we received the application back on 7/28, and we asked for additional information, which would be the DEQ application and DEQ certifications. And we got the application back on 8/19, or excuse me, 8/18.
So that's the information they file with the state?
Yes, so they filed that with the
Right,
state.
okay.
I assume they filed with the state. That's what we got a copy of.
Right, okay.
That was back in 8/18 that was mainly for real estate. And it seems like there may be some personal property intertwined into that. So then on 12/15, which was Thursday last week, we got another application for more personal property. And so it being a late application, we can accept it. We don't know why they were late. I don't know why they were late. But we don't have a reasoning as to why they were late, but it was late, so we can't do anything with it. So that's why we're here.
Okay, okay. So, questions for Travis Thomas?
So you can't do anything because it is late up to a certain period. For
Yeah.
previous periods up to a certain point.
Right, so an exemption application has to be turned in, AB10 has to be turned in the month of January. The due date is January 31st of the year you're applying for.
The year you're applying.
So does the board have any authority to accept that?
By statute, the language is that the board has the ability to allow a late application for cause. The board's historical position on that has been either illness or hospitalization or military deployment. And this board is held to that pretty stiff. Now, it's your purview, what you can determine as cause. I'm just telling you that's what the board's policy has been up to this point. So y'all will have to discuss that in deliberations.
Mark?
So this late application came on 12/15?
Right. Just four days ago.
Yeah. Okay. No, I don't have any questions.
Okay. Any further questions, Ray, Thomas? Okay.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. Mr. Edwards, I'd circle back to you. Do you have any further comments or anything that you'd like to make?
No, sir, I would just, again, reiterate the position that the company has. Since the audit period is open, it opened the period of time and allowed the applications for that window of time to occur.
Right.
And I appreciate your time this morning very
Okay.
much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
As I mentioned earlier, we'll go into the deliberation phase of the hearing after we hear all the cases today, and then the county will notify Tyson within 30 days.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay. All right.
Hearing number 2, property key number 413915, owner Roads Tree Service LLC.
Mr. Chairman, this taxpayer is not here this morning. This is a follow-up on a previous hearing where we asked the board to delay pending review of authority to hear the appeal and the value. It was the trailer, if you recall, and Mr. Rate brought that up at the last meeting.
Right.
From a legal standpoint, you did not have authority to hear the appeal on the value. However, the taxpayer requested a compromise of the tax bill. We informed them that the valuation appeal was passed. They could not bring that to the board because they received a notice of value in the summer, did not appeal for that. They had 30 days from that notice. It was a discovery notice. And so he was appealing within the standard personal property appeal window, which is 30 days from the tax bill. But he did not have that option because he had already received a discovery notice earlier in the year. However, the board can, under 105-312, I believe it's 312, they've had the power to compromise tax bills vested in them by the Board of County Commissioners. So the impact of that compromise that's been requested will reduce the value of the trailer to $4,300, resulting in a tax bill of $18.82. And we're presenting that to the board as the request from the taxpayer.
Okay.
Was he a veteran?
I do not recall that.
Somebody was sick. I knew there was something to it, but I can't remember.
So any questions?
Yeah,
Do
I
we-
know.
Okay.
If I remember correctly, this is the one where the county had a schedule of values for this type trailer. Correct?
That's correct. And it was from Tech Data Systems.
Right.
And that was a lot higher than what he paid for this, which was $4,300, right?
That's correct.
Right.
So we have the authority to lower his tax bill, but not the value.
Right.
So for 2023.
We will correct the value for 2023.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
That's what I thought.
So we'll come back and deal with that during the deliberation
All right.
piece. And just, Thomas, any questions on your end? Okay. All right, we'll move on to the next tab.
Hearing number 3, parcel ID number 092-65047, Union Anson County Habitat.
Okay. And
That's a staff
looks
recommendation.
like a staff rec.
Yeah.
Mr. Hunter's here if you have questions for him regarding this.
This is the prior BILO on Dickerson Boulevard. It was a dark store. Habitat bought it for $2.5 million. We've lowered the value to $2.74
Okay.
million on it. When they left, it was kind of in a state of disrepair, rat infested. They've gone in and they've remodeled it this year. I've been in the property, and they're probably about 90% done at this point, but as of January 1, it was not in good shape at all. So we felt like, spoke with Phil Every, the appraisal manager, and we felt like that we could come to an agreement on that amount.
Okay.
And they agree upon it too, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Should do it.
All right.
Agreeable's agreeable.
Yeah. Any questions? All right. Joe, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right, appreciate it.
We're ready to start deliberations.
Okay, so now we can move into the deliberation phase of the hearing, and we'll just go back and take them in order. On the Tyson Foods piece, which is a two-part case. Questions or?
So the one's personal property and one's real estate, or the two separate,
No, this is all real estate. No, I'm sorry, it's all personal property. As far as the assets discovered, and that's the idle equipment question that they had.
Where's he coming from on the time frame on being able to file the exemption? I mean, what I was hearing, it sounded like that was a long period of time
So
to be
this
able.
year, wasn't it?
the discovery was this year, yes. And so
So that made it back.
when you issue a discovery on equipment that's exempt, that does open the application period. This audit's been in process for 2 years. It's been a long process.
Right.
However, applications, that equipment was discovered because it was never listed to begin with. And so it's been in operation for a while. They never listed it, from my recollection. And then now that it's part of the discovery, they're requesting exemption, which is their right to do so. However, the application still has to be filed timely. based on statute.
When did y'all find out?
The board has that option.
No, when did y'all find out that it was a discovery of this year?
We've been in process with this for some time, so the discovery, original discovery notice was sent out September, October of this year.
Okay. And then they found out, and then they tried to get the exemption thing going. Is that what happened?
Yes, they did some research and realized they could apply for exemption as a result of the discovery,
Right.
but it's still, applications still have to be filed timely. But it's up to the board to determine how y'all decide to go with that.
I mean, that is a long time to wait. That's why I was trying to get the date. So like, they found out about, let's say July, August, whatever you said.
I think it was October.
All right.
I believe October is when the discovery notice was sent out. Is that right, Raina?
I have one, the one that's on the top of the file is August 24th. And then they filed appeal.
We sent them a revised notice. We've been in assessors conference on this for a while. We sent a revised notice November 3rd,
Okay.
and that's in your packet.
Okay.
So the value in question is something they had not been taxed on for several years, even though they had it, but if they had applied for it, they wouldn't have been taxed on it, correct?
If they applied and the state approved it. So they have to go through an Department of Environmental Quality review in order to get approval.
But it's for a pollution control facility.
Right. Or portions of the plant that are pollution control equipment.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah, you have to have
Right.
certain things to.
So if
Either put it
the
in
state,
water or put it in the sewer system, they have to do
Right.
things.
Right.
if the state approved it, then they have to make application to the county.
Has the state approved it yet?
No. What they did on the real estate, is that right, Travis?
No, we have not got any certifications on.
On the one from July? Okay, so,
Didn't he say something about, what did he say on the 17th or 15th of this month?
right, so that, but there was one in July and there was one in December. So we have not received word from the state
On there?
that they have been approved.
Okay. Are we going, is the county gonna, is this gonna be like, you go back for the back taxes as to when it was?
Well, that's what the audit is. We're only going back 5 years. This stuff's been in place for quite some time, but we're only going back 2020 through 2016 is the audit period.
So if we don't approve the application, is that what?
If you don't approve the application, we can't review it. It can't be exempted, at least locally. I'll put it that way.
Repeat that again. So,
We can't review it if you don't agree to accept the late application.
okay.
So,
But you do have your precedence on the criteria for late applications that you've accepted before. Doesn't say you can't change that. But you do have a kind of a board policy that's been standing for some time.
so to follow up on what Mark's getting at, have they actually filed an application with the state?
Yes, they have.
When did they file that?
One was last week, one was back in the summer, I believe.
Yeah, that's the only one I remember was he said the 15th or 16th, and we got an email back on
Right.
the 17th or 16th.
So,
That they received the application for, that's,
and follow up again on what Mark's getting at is, it looks on the schedule for the auditors that in 2020, they added $2.9 million of pollution equipment. Another $3 million was added in 2019. So that tells me that they should have filed way back, starting in 2016, when they had started adding this equipment. In other words, they failed to file an application with the state for the last 2 years, 2, 3, 4 years, right?
I'm not aware of any application they've filed with the state until recently. I can't speak to how long they should have had it on file or when they should have started applying, but I'm not aware of anything until July and December.
So if they, let's say, assume that they had filed an application in 2018 with the state, does the state automatically notify you that that's been filed, or is it up to them to file with you, and then you follow up with the state?
They have to file an application with both sides.
Okay.
They have to submit a county application and the state application. Once they've been approved at the state, we will get a notification from DEQ that this company, whatever company ABC, has been approved for this amount of dollars in pollution abatement equipment and land.
So as far as the county goes, there was never an application filed up until, like Mark said, December of this year.
Right.
Last year, whatever it was. Okay. I'm good.
And when you mentioned how we've ruled on some of these before, is there any, it sounds like that's geared more to individuals. I mean, is there any precedence with businesses, commercial?
Not to my knowledge.
Right.
I mean, similar, I know, and there have been some cases in the past, I couldn't tell you which one, but I do recall that the individual responsible for filing the paperwork was out for a small business, for
Right.
example.
Right.
And there's been, I think the board may have made some allowances there. To a company of this size, I don't know of any decisions
Right.
you've made
Right.
regarding that.
Right. Okay.
But
So,
it seems like we handle these way different than we do the individual or small business, because you go back and look at years, compare what they got, what you got, and everything else, and
well, an audit is different than
Yeah,
a
it's
current year
audited way
application.
different.
Yeah,
Yeah.
And it would take a long time
yeah,
to do one,
yeah.
but my understanding.
they have to be aware.
My understanding is that due to the audit, you found these items, right, whatever they were, and you brought it to their attention, and are we in the ballpark of $2.7 million or something? Is that
What's
the
total value?
Yeah, of all those things or something?
Well, Mark, it's, hold on a second. Close to $7 million total for all the years about it.
So that's what I'm saying, is this amount of money. And so because you found it, you let them know, and then they made the effort, August, September, whatever, to get it exempt, correct?
That's correct.
And you said you haven't heard from the state on if it's exempt or not.
The portion from the summer, we have not heard from the state, and the other one was just filed last week, so it's going to be a while.
How long, that's the question, how long does it typically take for the state to process one of these? I think it's lengthy.
Travis?
It varies depending on, obviously, size, I guess what they have to do, but you may get one in 3 months, you may get one in 9 months. It's variable, it's not consistent.
Do they have other stuff that they get exempted?
No.
No, it's pollution. I mean,
Okay,
they're
I'm not
trying to
saying-
comply with the state or federal
Right.
regulations for pollution.
And all this is the pollution control equipment? Is it all? or-
The whole audit is not, no.
Right.
But the,
That's-
but
But
the
the issue we're
discovery
dealing with,
issue
yeah,
is.
yeah.
No, there's other items being discovered besides the pollution
But the
control.
majority of it is.
So looks like about 7 million of this is, based on this last notice, is pollution abatement control,
Okay.
or pollution equipment.
But to get back to what Chairman was asking, right, to this, the county only made exceptions for veterans, and someone had a medical exemption. Now, the only people that would be applying for this exemption would be, as Dutch indicated, would be a business and not an individual who wouldn't own pollution control equipment.
Right.
So it's got to be all prior exceptions had to be for businesses, right? Am I wrong?
All prior exceptions for what had to be for businesses.
For filing in the time period.
Any individual, any application for exemption would have been filed by a business only and not an individual. An individual wouldn't have pollution control equipment. Isn't that what you were asking, Doug?
Well, I think I was talking about just the method on how we've dealt with it on the exemption piece, not necessarily the pollution control equipment, but how we've dealt with these
Late application.
late applications.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not so much about the equipment. There is one, it just brought to my attention, there is one instance for another company in the county where an allowance was made for, it's a smaller company, the allowance was made for an exemption because the sole individual responsible for it was hospitalized.
Right.
Yeah.
Whereas you've got a large company here that has a professional accounting and CPA staff.
And
That's how we always kind
Yeah,
of went with it,
that's-
is when you get up to that level,
Right.
somebody, it's just not mom and pop.
Right, right.
But the board does have the authority to go whichever way you see necessary on this.
So like Dutch's chairman just mentioned, that these company this side's got some controllers, people should know what they're doing,
Yeah.
and they just failed to file.
Well, I think you probably have also people at a corporate level who don't know anything to any degree about state or local regulations on filing for stuff either. What they do in Arkansas isn't gonna be anywhere near the same as
Yeah.
North Carolina.
That's true.
Yeah, that's why I was trying to figure out is, and I know it's not all pollution control equipment, but is there something in there with this pollution control equipment that caused some confusion with the company or not?
I think,
That would be my,
I think there's an assumption
Yeah,
sometimes, and I'm not speaking for Tyson on this, I'm speaking in general practice. I think there's some, even from an individual basis, there's some assumption at times that, well, it's not, we know it's not taxable, so we're not gonna list it.
it's not productive equipment.
And so
for
they
us.
just shortcut the process. Instead of listing all assets, they shortcut it because they know if they get the approval,
It won't
it's
be-
exempt. So I think that is, that could be the gray area that this falls in from,
See,
from,
that's
from the
what-
taxpayer standpoint.
right.
But that's, again,
Still doesn't make it,
the board can go whichever way they deem necessary on this.
And that's why I brought up the issue with the state. Has it been approved? And is it let's just say,
We don't
whatever
know
these
that.
items are, if we approve the late application, then y'all will do your job as far as finding out if it's exempt, correct?
If or when.
You know what I mean? And and they'll find out what the state says. And if the state says no, it's not acceptable, then it doesn't have to come back to us, because you're gonna do what you do on that side of it, right?
Right, we cannot grant an exemption that's not allowed under state law.
No.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. But if
And
it is exempted, then we're allowing them to find out,
Yeah.
and it can be taken care of.
So if we accepted the late application, when and if the state does accept or doesn't accept, it will resolve the issue, correct?
That's correct.
Yeah,
But,
Right?
pending.
no, it's a good question, but I'm wondering, this is for 20 back to 2016. If that application is approved this year by the state, for you guys, that doesn't apply to the prior years, right? For discovery.
Based on the way, because it's an audit, that opens up that window.
Yeah. The window's open, that's,
Okay.
Y'all make the
I mean, it's fair,
decision.
Wes, it's fair both ways.
No, it's,
You know, if you
the
have
window's
a window,
open regardless.
There's ups and there's downs, because you see
And
some
so,
downs.
because of the audit period.
It goes like this. And I'll say this, the company's at least doing the right thing by putting the equipment in
yeah.
and keeping the plant open and keeping the jobs.
Right.
There's value all the way around that.
I just kept thinking there was a gray area, and that's
Yeah.
kind of confirmed my thoughts.
But that's purely on the pollution equipment. here.
Right, right.
That's if it's approved, and that's if it's approved by the state. And y'all don't know how that goes, do you? I mean, if y'all have.
Diener is slow and takes a long time. I'm on some of their boards, so I know that they're just slow.
Yeah.
Okay, one is the late application, right? What's the other one?
The other item was the idle assets.
Which was fairly small in scope, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
The taxpayer is contending that because they were idle, they should not be taxed. But we do maintain a residual value on all assets until they're confirmed disposed of.
Okay.
Because they sold them, they couldn't tell you what.
They sold them for something, of course, they don't know what they sold them for, but, I mean, that's a nominal amount in the whole scheme of this thing, but
Okay.
I think you ought to just keep what we got.
Okay. Well, let's, Ray, Mark, any more questions on that piece?
No, I'm
Let's-
good.
Let's roll back to the first piece, and if there's no further discussion, what's the pleasure of the board on the
Late application.
late application?
Or is that really the last one?
Well, yeah, that would be B. Since I got it out there, let's go ahead and deal with that, and I think that would be,
I'm fine with accepting the late application.
so is that in the form of a motion?
I'll make a motion, we accept the late application.
So I have a motion to accept the late application. Do I have a second?
If somebody doesn't second it, it dies.
I don't know. I just have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
Only because, 12:15, when they finally sent in that stuff, that's just like really late.
Yeah.
And the discovery, that's why I asked about discovery. When did the county go to them and say, we found this? And it was like,
Well, it was,
August, July, August, sometime of this year, you let them know, correct? And that's what I'm saying. I don't know how to, is that enough time?
Right. Okay.
I'm not sure.
it seems to me it was within a reasonable time frame they made an application. That's my opinion.
All right.
But somebody's got to make a second it, or we ain't got a motion.
Right, right.
I'll second.
So you second? Okay. Do I have a motion and a second? Any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Got two. Nay? Ray. Okay. So the motion carries 2-1. Yep. Okay.
Now, what's the other?
On the idle assets.
I make a motion, we accept the county's value.
Okay, so no change there.
No
Correct.
change.
So I have a motion from Thomas on no change on idle assets. Have a second. Second from Ray. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign. So motion is carried on item A for hearing one.
There was a third question that he brought up regarding the silo at the feed mill, and we did confirm with the taxpayer in phone calls last week and the week before that we did move the silo to real estate off personal property. So just to confirm that was not a decision that was asked to be made.
Right, yeah, but I remember him mentioning something
Yeah,
about that.
but we
Okay.
did move that to real estate.
Okay. Okay. With that, we move to tab 2, which is the one on the trailer. I think we had pretty much come to a consensus on that, but we
Right.
hadn't ruled on it yet.
I think the motion would be to approve what is it, just the value and it's $18 or compromise.
Compromise on the tax bill amount, okay?
Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Yeah.
I'll second that.
I have a motion from Mark, second from Thomas. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion opposed, like sign, so motion's carried for tab 2 to reduce the tax bill amount. And then on to tab 3 on the staff rec for the Union Anson Habitat on Dickerson Boulevard, or, yep.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, we accept the staff's recommendation.
So I have a motion from Mark,
Second.
second from Ray. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, like sign, so motion's carried to accept the staff recommendation. With that, or any other items?
That is our final meeting. That concludes our final meeting for the 2022 tax year.
Yay.
We will reconvene in April.
Right.
We'll let you know those dates, and we'll confirm that everybody's going to be returning
Right.
to see if we need to fill any vacancies. With that, I'll turn it over to you.
Okay. So So with that, do I have a motion to adjourn?
make a motion, we
and Wish
adjourn.
everybody a Merry Christmas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Very good.
All right.
Second.